So they are basically creating a kind of mini zombies that they can control.
Now you understand where I am coming from. So
Yeah,
what I ended up doing is to create people, that cannot be self-dependent. People that never be self-sufficient, no matter how much they have. They created people who cannot even conduct independent research to understand what is going on around them. So at the end of the day, we find ourselves where we are today. That is the problem. That is what happened. It is a systematic thing. Then on top of that, they now unleash hunger. They unleash threat. They unleash violence. So if you put all these things together, you just technically kill a whole generation. You just technically ostracize the future, the lives of a generation. You completely put a chain on their brain so that they can't see beyond their nose. That is what happened.
You see, what that professor was saying is right. That, of course, what he was saying is what Osayo More, the late Osayo More of blessed memory, was also saying. That this gang that are ruling Nigeria are few, but they have a very tight hold of the entire country. They run it, and all of them are the same. They're basically the same club of people. They run the system, perfectly in control of it. They are the one who didn't want the light to be created in Nigeria. They don't want electricity to be generated in Nigeria. That is why it is not available. So, like you said too, they are the one that refuse to pay to make funds available for the education. That is why it is like that. You see, since I was a young person in Nigeria, this question of people going on strike have been a way of life in the country. Why should they have to be like that? Because if it is a country that is actually aspiring to become, or that occupy a position in the world, you should care about the education. Because if for 6 months students are at home, what do you want them to do? For 6 months, 7 months, how are they going to be able to recuperate? How can somebody do this to a people? This is what our leaders are doing to us. They are deliberately killing the country. And they are still proposing us this leader who will tell you, I will give you a wa, vote for me. Right. I will give you pounded yarn, vote for me.
Yes.
When is it going to be over for them? When are we, Nigeria, going to be tired and say no, so that a new Nigeria can come to be?
Obehi, that is a very tough question. It is a very tough question to answer because I don't know. Because at every point when you think Nigerians have it, before you wake up the next morning, it's a different thing. And don't take my word for it. Look at the NSAS movement. What become of it? Even after innocent citizens were massacred at Lekki toll gate, you still have Nigerians who stood up and were saying it never happened. That should have been one event that should have united the entire nation. But again, it failed miserably. But again, it all boils down to Nigerians not being vigilant. It boils down to them not being sensitive, even to their own plight. It's a very tough situation, my brother. It is a very tough situation, I must confess.
And I want to believe that a lot of psychologists all over the world will be studying Nigeria to better understand the human conduct, the human behavior, because this is something that needs to be studied. How can a few people just imprison the country?
The question is even that everywhere you go now, as a Nigerian, if you are excelling, they will ask you, you guys are so brilliant, but how come you couldn't use this knowledge to transform your own? It's a question you can't answer. You can't, it's like, you know, I don't know how to, I don't know. For me, I don't know. It's a difficult question. It's a difficult thing to answer. Because if you look at the entire team, but I think bulk of the question too, also, it's also the way Nigeria is configured. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
If you have people who have different culture, different social history, different mindset, and different drive as one people living within a given geographical space. And if the terms of their togetherness is not properly defined from the get-go, it can also create this kind of problem. And I think that is actually the biggest problem for Nigeria. Because if you look at the various political entities that make up Nigeria, my brother, we all have different aspirations. Even before independence, one factor that made Awu never to unite with the North was because he saw from the get-go how animalistic they are. He saw how unwilling they are ready to grow. He saw how crude their ways are. And he saw their brain and how much they don't want to be productive. But this is not to say that other part of the federation does not have their own problem. Yes, they do. But each time, just look at it. Each time you have a northern around in Nigeria, everything is a girl. Why? Why? Every time we have or we are close to a true federalism, you see them systematically draw Nigeria back to a unitary system of government. Which we even doing right now in 21st century. See, my brother, it's a very tough situation. I think what Nigerians should be doing right now is to continue to ask each of these candidates, what are you going to redefine Nigeria as a nation? What are those key elements that brought us together? How sacrosanct are they? How well are we through holding those values? Or how? Okay, so Nigerians should be asking those questions. How do we redefine these values? How do we redefine these things that bind us together? Okay, if we cannot find a common answer, what do we do to move forward to make sure that this kind of situation we are witnessing today doesn't happen? These are the questions that Nigerians should be asking this candidate instead of just sharing them up unnecessarily. It shouldn't be about money sharing. It shouldn't be about rice and agbado or rice and agbado and ewa. It should be 2023 should be anchored on critical, issues. Because Nigeria, we have to redefine Nigeria. We have to redefine the people, and we have to create a structure that put into consideration a political ideology or a direction, a clear cut, a clear path where the nation wants to go. And each of the federated units must buy into it. And the ones that are not ready to buy into it, they will find a way to take care of that. And that is where the constitution of the country comes into the conversation. All of these things should be well defined in the constitution.